Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connarton, and he's playing with a paper clip. But this is, of course, the Honorable Gary S. Hopper.
Matt, I had a dream about you yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't like that. But
good.
yeah, it wasn't really that bad. It was, what the heck was it? I really did. It was, I had, this show became so popular, another station. Anyway, so another station offered me another program.
Yeah.
But it was like from 4 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And or I forget what hours it was, but it was right down the street, and I'm running back and forth, and I was trying to do the show, and I didn't have you as a co-host on the other station, and it wasn't working as good, and I missed Matt.
Aw, that's nice.
Isn't that cute?
That is. That's a nice stream.
It was a nightmare, actually, but
Right. Well,
but if that's as bad as my nightmares get, that's pretty good.
my dreams never make any sense.
Really?
Yeah, like they're just very random, and sometimes like different people in the dream will I'm not even sure who they are, because they'll kind of seem like they're one person, but then they almost seem to morph into somebody else. And yeah, my dreams are just so random. There's never any logic to them. I can never explain them to anybody because they don't make any sense.
You got to learn to. We got to figure out some way to videotape them.
Yes.
And we can look back and go, "Wow, I am messed up."
Right.
So anyway, tonight our guest is Richard Olson, and I already forgot. I should write this stuff down because I get dream image. New Hampshire Wildlife Federation. You're the president.
Yes, and I'm also the president of the Londonderry Fishing Game Club.
Oh, I didn't know you were president of that too.
Oh, absolutely.
You're wicked important.
Well, I got just a couple of hats. I'm the janitor. They give me the title to make me feel better in this everybody gets a trophy sort of world we live in.
Yeah.
This is your, how many times have you been on the show now? Is this your second or third?
Third,
okay.
Third time. Sure.
So we got Rich on to talk about a bunch of things. One was your shameless plug for tomorrow's event.
Yes, Concerned Veterans for America. Our local guy being Roger Wilkins.
Right.
And I are teaming up to do an event at the Londonderry Fishing Game Club. And that is Thank a Veteran. And it's a cookout. It's going to be from 11 to 2. It's open to the public. And it would help if you go to the email address that Roger provided on the poster and RSVP. But if you want to come by, come on by. Jack Heath is going to be there from his show in the morning.
Yeah.
He's going to MC the event. We're going to have Mrs. Vaughn. Her son was the Navy SEAL that was killed.
Okay.
And she's going to speak and address the attendees. We're looking at a crowd of between 90 and 130.
Oh, that's
right
a nice
there.
size. That's a wicked.
We're going to be
size.
awarding a flag to the oldest veteran we have there. And we're gonna kick things off with Piper from the New Hampshire Police Pipes playing the bagpipes. So it's going to be neat. It's going to be a salute to veterans, just a way to say thank you and for their service. And
now this is free.
It's free.
Free, and it's on address.
5 Lund Street in Litchfield, New Hampshire. The Londonderry Fishing Game Club is in Londonderry, but we access from the Litchfield side. So again, that's 5 Lund Street.
I was wondering about that.
And
I belong to the Goffstown Fishing Game Club, which is doesn't even come close to abutting Goffstown. But
right, it's in Ware.
We're in the middle of Ware.
Right. I know Bob Cormier and
right.
Chris McRae. So I know those guys.
Chris I've known Chris for a long time. His mother and I served in the legislature.
That's right.
My first term.
Yeah.
She's a wicked nice lady.
Yeah.
She uses something cool. She uses they've got sheep.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sheep, yeah, and she uses donkeys to protect them from the coyotes.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Llamas and alpacas are often used for the same purpose.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, but llamas probably taste better than donkeys. But I'm just guessing. I don't know. I don't know. Would you know?
I imagine it tastes much like a camel.
Right.
They're related to the camels.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had camel lately.
Everything just tastes like chicken.
I smoked one. I don't know if that's the same. That was a long time ago. No. But anyway, so that's your shameless plug for your event tomorrow.
Yes, it's a Thank a Veteran bar. Actually, it's a cookout. They call it a barbecue on the poster, but it's more of a cookout. Hamburgers and hot dogs and sodas and things like that.
Okay.
And we'll have some folks there. Kevin Smith is going to be there. You remember Kevin? He ran for governor.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we had him on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, he's now the Londonderry town manager, and he's going to be there tomorrow.
Oh, that's what he's doing. Okay.
Yeah, you ought to come
he's
by.
He's a really nice guy. I already RSVP'd Roger, so
Ah, good.
I have a doctor's appointment at 9, and then I'm going to try to get over there.
Absolutely.
Depending on how badly they torment me at the doctor's office.
Sure. And, another thing we do at Londonderry Fishing Game Club is we host a lot of NRA classes.
Right.
We had basic pistol. We just had personal protection outside the home. Bob Cormier and I taught metallic cartridge reloading, teaching people how to hand load because ammunition is very expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're both certified to teach those. So we teach those.
You have to be certified to teach that, or
well, the NRA, yeah. If you're going to get an NRA certification, sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess the gun club would almost have to have that, or else the liability.
Well, we're an NRA affiliated club, meaning in order to be a member of our club, you got to be a member of the NRA.
Because I've tried to teach my son reloading, and he just does not care.
Did he ask you if you were certified?
No, he knows I'm certified.
I mean, the other component to that too is, when you teach somebody to do something, it's always good to have like an outline or a format or a way of doing it where all the basics are understood and formatted. And the NRA is really good at that. So when it comes to basic metallic cartridge reloading, if that's something you're going to be teaching, there's a certain degree of liability that lends itself to not teaching it correctly or giving bad information.
Speaking of the NRA,
yep.
Okay, I was it was obvious that shooting in California was absolutely the NRA's fault, and I've decided why it was the NRA's fault.
It was the NRA's fault. Like ring dings made me fat.
No, it's different than that.
It's the ring dings.
If you look at this guy on Facebook or on his YouTube, it's obvious the NRA really should have had a dating service.
Yeah,
right.
They might have should have.
If the NRA was really responsible and realized how spoiled rotten this little piece of was,
right,
and they had set him up, had a dating service, it would have prevented.
I think you should reach out to
if he had
with that idea.
I know.
If he had lived 5 more years, he would have made an excellent narcissist. I'm convinced of that.
Really?
Yeah. If you've ever been around a narcissist for more than 5 minutes, you'd understand completely what I'm talking about.
I don't actually understand completely what you're talking about.
Narcissists. Oh.
I understand.
Oh, yes. I'm telling you.
I've forgotten what narcissists...
Don't fail me now.
No. Explain, because I've actually forgotten what narcissists...
A narcissist, they're in love with themselves, and they they view the whole entire world through their lens.
The world owes me something.
Right, and their lens is really how the world is. Whether it's not that way or not, their view through the world, their view of the world through their lens is how...
Okay, I get that, but why the 5 more years?
Well, I just think that's usually in your mid to late 20s is when that really kicks in and develops, That everything is about me.
Right.
Well,
for some people it's much younger.
It's...
Well, actually, if you look at a little kid, and that's probably what this stems from, if you look at a child, 2-year-old, everything revolves around them.
Mm-hmm. Here's a great example of a narcissist. We had a gentleman, he sent me an email last year. He lives in Litchfield. He was complaining that the gunfire was disrupting his ability to philosophize and write poetry.
What?
He said he moved from Cambridge to take care of his sick mother.
Right.
And that all the gunfire coming from our club, he couldn't meditate, philosophize, or write poetry. And, I looked at that and I said, narcissist, party of one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything has to be how I want it.
Sure.
Yes.
Aside from the fact we've been in the same place, in the general area for 63 years, here comes this Johnny come lately, 2 weeks later, he's writing me a nasty email.
Wow.
That's like people who, you hear stories about people who move to where an airport is and then they're mad because...
Or near a pig farm and complain about the smell. Yeah, same difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Except New Hampshire has the range protection statutes. So.
I actually was a co-sponsor of that, I think it had something to do with it in about
Governor
2003.
Benson signed it.
Yeah, Benson.
Yep.
And the problem with it is we did that we were actually focused on Nashua fishing game.
Sure.
Because they, in their wisdom, they had a gun club in Nashua, but Nashua was growing so quickly. This is
encroachment issue. Sure.
We got to get out of here.
Yep.
And so they bought all this land over in Hollis. And then people started buying land around their place in Hollis, and then
It's inevitable.
This, from what I understand, some people from out of country bought some land and just started suing them and suing them. And first we passed that law to help protect them, and then they came up with some other reason why they were going to sue the people. I think it was lead poisoning was their next.
Which is really a red herring if you understand anything about lead.
Right. Yeah, I understand, but it's not. It's just relentless what people do to gun clubs nowadays.
Well, actually, I think part of the problem is the gun club leadership. Okay, one of the time. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm saying one of the things that gun clubs, some of the leadership of the gun clubs, screw them. We're not going to respond. We're just going to ignore them. No, you have to respond. Especially where people are complaining about gunfire noise. What we did was we actually, for over 3 years, we made trips out into all these neighborhoods within a mile radius of where our gun club is. And we sat in those neighborhoods when we were having different events, like machine gun events at our club, or where there's a lot of firearms being used.
Yeah.
Where there'd be a tendency to be a higher degree of acoustical noise coming from our club.
Yeah.
And we actually took tests with decibel meters, and we documented things like the weather condition, outside temperature, air density, foliage, whether it was in the fall, there was no leaves on the trees, or if there was leaves on the trees, the elevation of the area compared to the relationship where the gun club is. So the bottom line is we spent all this time on all these streets getting all this information. So it's safe to say we know exactly how much noise is coming from our club.
Right.
For example, if I sit at our front gate during an event, the best test I've gotten so far with no leaves on the trees is about 56 decibels. Now, speaking to you this far apart, you're hearing me at 53 decibels, just to give you. So the question then becomes, what is the nature of your complaint? Do you not like gunfire noise itself? No matter how loud or soft, no gunfire anyhow, anywhere? Or is it really honestly too loud? And what do you mean by too loud?
Right.
So those are the questions that we engage people with. And what invariably happens, we find out, is some of the influence around our club. For example, we have power line corridors. Power line corridors are very popular for shooting. One of the problems with that is they're very close to homes.
Right.
So somebody calls up and says, oh my God, somebody's shooting and it's rattling my sliding glass window. So I go out in the power line corridor and I look, and what do I find on the ground? 300 Win Mag shells. Well, if you fire a Win Mag, 300 Win Mag in a power line corridor where there's a house 200 feet away, that's going to be a serious report.
Yeah.
Serious. Not to mention the fact they're throwing the brass on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who's that wasteful?
Right.
Right.
I mean, there's a value commodity to leave behind.
It's obviously somebody doesn't know what they're doing. Because they're letting the brass just die when it's 300 Win Mag brass. It's got to be pretty expensive. 2, they're shooting a 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
Why do you? That's like just
that'll rattle the fillings, when you pull the trigger on that.
Right, and it just destroys meat. It's not you unless you're shooting 400 yards, you don't. I'm not going to say
you're not going to get any. You're not going to get any 400-yard shots in New Hampshire.
Not in New Hampshire.
Now, I have a question for you, Gary. Now, you said, Richard, when you're talking, it's about 53 decibels.
Correct.
Now, if Richard were talking a little bit louder and we're at 56, do you think you'd be able to write poetry and meditate?
And philosophize.
And philosophize, yes.
Wouldn't I have to have been able to do that prior to him talking?
That's a very good point.
Maybe the
that's
guy
a valid point.
Yeah, maybe the guy didn't know how to do that anyway.
Oh, right.
Well, he
the sound was interfering with his learning and training.
His education.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a rather interesting email.
That's Cambridge makes sense though.
Yeah.
Did you save it? Do you still have it?
Oh, yeah. Well, we do this thing at the Fish and Game Club every year in January, just for the membership at the January monthly meeting. For the membership edification, I read the top 10 emails of the prior year.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like the guy that sends me an email asking when we're going to plow because I got my Prius stuck. Or the guy that says, I was out on the range and I got a cut on my foot. this piece went right in my sandal, and it's like, what are you doing wearing sandals at the range, So it takes all kinds of, we have 1,300 members, so,
Yeah.
it's
That's awesome.
It's a big club, and we have a lot of very unique characters.
Do you know offhand what the most ridiculous one you've ever gotten is?
Oh, well, I would have to say it would be the Target Frame Stands email. This is an email where a guy sent me an email that said, when are you guys going to put more Target Frame Stands out? And I thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous. If you want Target Frame Stands, volunteer for a work party and help us make them.
Right.
So I said, we'll put them out soon, but thanks for volunteering for the next work party.
Yeah.
We'll see you this Saturday. And he responded back to me, I can't this Saturday. I have to take my fiance's cat to the vet.
I have to take my fiance's cat to the vet?
Yeah, that's what he
Wow.
he wrote that to the Fish and Game Club president, So
That's awesome.
He's not much of a multitasker, apparently.
I said, wow. So I said, well, never mind the vet. Bring that cat down here. We'll have a cookout. And he didn't like that too much.
Oh, wow.
No, you're not politically correct, Rich.
No, that's not. No, well, I'm a redneck. What do you expect?
So what was your take on this? Because I was listening to MSNBC talking about how the we got to do something about the NRA after that shooting in California, which most people probably have listened to MSNBC don't realize he actually stabbed people first.
What you mean? MSNBC, all 12 of their audience, or all 12 people.
Well, I guess including me, there was 13 today.
Oh, wow.
But I watched on a recording off of YouTube, so I'm not sure that counts.
I don't know. The question does not compute. How can it be the NRA's fault?
Right.
Honestly, that's like saying, okay, I'm going to go downstairs to Margarita's. I'm going to have a few drinks and smash my car up. So we got to ban cars or like
alcohol
that. Ban alcohol because I was irresponsible. Same difference.
What I was thinking about the whole thing, I actually listened to this guy's. He did like a YouTube video of why he was upset and everything. And I got through a few minutes of it. After that, I just couldn't handle it anymore. It was just so insane.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that you got this guy who lives adjacent to them is Nevada.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
I don't know what kind of handguns he had. I think they were Glocks. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he had two of them. If he had not bought one, he could have easily gone to...
Sorry about that.
That's
all right.
He could have easily afforded to go to Nevada and just get what he needed and then come back and been all good again. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's so sick. It's so twisted. And I also, the thing is, I'm reluctant to call him a dirtbag because I don't know how much medication this kid's on. And if you look at a lot of the track record of all these crazy people shooting people, medication's huge.
He, I don't know. Has anybody copped to that yet? Said, oh, he was on this med and that med, or
I haven't heard that.
He's just off his meds.
Right.
He's been under psychiatric evaluation, and
so he would have gotten over it with time, medication, and counseling.
What? But no, if I remember we had Dr. Malcolm Smith from UNH on here talking about bullying quite a few years ago.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago, anyway.
Yeah,
and he was talking about bullying and how a lot of these people, like in Colorado, the Columbine.
Sure.
And he went to those towns and actually researched all these mass shootings. And he was talking about how a lot of it's...
It's like we have our own soundboard.
I know it is.
Sound effects.
Sound effect.
There we go. He researched these mass shootings.
He researched mass shootings, and his focus was on the bullying, that a lot of these kids are the result of being bullied.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know Lars Christensen.
Yes.
Okay. Lars had told me back 10 years ago anyway, in the State House, that most of the people that are that unstable that actually get to the point where they shoot people have been on psychotropic drugs for depression, for whatever, for ADHD and all kinds of other stuff. And so I asked the doctor about that, and he didn't want to answer.
Right.
And so I pushed him, and I don't push many people on the show, but I says, you know the answer to this, come on. And then he reluctantly said it was over 75% of all of them have been on
Maybe you didn't use the right word. You said, "Is there a correlation?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Is
what
there
it is.
is there a causality? You got to use the scientific term.
You got to go for 4 syllables.
Yes,
You gotta go
absolutely.
For 4 syllables.
I think his dodging the question.
Got to be polysyllabic.
Yes, his dodging the question was his way of bullying you, I think.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
yeah.
You know what I don't understand to this? I get that kids are bullied and parents are concerned. I mean, parents nowadays are like helicopters flying around their kids. But
Right.
I can tell you, growing up, I didn't have parents that were flying around me, and I was a small kid. I was not a very big kid.
Right.
I got bullied.
Yeah.
Okay, but somehow I don't know. I didn't grow up to shoot a whole bunch of people
Right.
and go into a mall or whatever, and join the trenchcoat mafia. It's just I don't know what to think of it, because I know a lot of other people that were bullied as well.
Yeah.
They grew up. They didn't. They worked jobs. They had families, and I have a family. I have kids, grown kids, grandkids.
Yeah.
And somehow I managed not to snap and shoot a whole bunch of people. And I don't see that on my horizon.
Maybe you just didn't get caught.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, that's true. He's not going to come on TV.
Are we
and
joking
say
about
that,
this?
Well, you've been on the show before. You know,
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
how we are.
but I mean, the bottom line is I'm kind of baffled by it, because on the one hand, I guess I could see where a kid would snap and do that, but I don't think that all bullies end up snapping and being gunmen, and all gunmen don't grow up bullies. I think
Right.
some grow up, and I think there's probably, if I had to guess, I'd say there's some out there that grew up in perfectly stable, well-adjusted families and got a screw loose,
Right.
to use the term.
Yeah, I just know that certain medications can absolutely just totally mess with your head. So if you were a child that's been bullied, let's say they've been bullied, I think the problem is you could probably diagnose a huge percentage of the population of people who have been bullied when they were kids for some reason or another, or at least they perceive it that way.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say we all have at some
Yeah, I would
point in
think
time
so.
in
Oh,
our
sure.
lives,
Sure, of course.
So then you add medication to that, which starts distorting your perspective completely.
Yeah.
I know that I've been on steroids ever since I was little for eczema and breathing.
That's it. Yes. No.
That's why he's so ripped.
No, it's actually not. It'd be nice if they worked that way.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they didn't. But when I was on steroids for the asthma and the eczema, it messes with your head. It makes you really, really angry. You know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah.
So there is medication that kids can take that is going to screw with their brain.
Even in your case, there's something over the counter too that would do that to you, right? Didn't you say like some kind of allergy medicine or something?
Benadryl. If I take Benadryl, I'm really aggravated the whole next day.
Yeah.
It's just the way my body reacts to it. So I just avoid it like the plague.
I think the only bad medication reaction I've ever had was after a night of tequila. My girlfriend was commanding crows to attack me. So
Oh, really? That's awesome.
yeah, tequila. Ooh.
What was the other one I wanted to talk about? Was the I think we're probably going to disagree on this. We talked about it last week, but I want to get your take. Chipotle's.
Chipotle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of guys in Texas went in with AR-15 strapped to their back.
Sure.
And to me, it's obvious that they're trying to garner attention or be confrontational.
Yeah, they are what we call hardcore, rabid, true believers for the cause of the Second Amendment, in your face, if you will.
Right, they're in your face.
Yes, and I think I like the idea, but I think when you do that, it has its context. For example, when when the Bloomberg bus rolled into town and all the guys were walking around with their rifles,
That was funny.
that was perfect.
That's very funny.
Okay, but to go into a restaurant,
It's a little over the top.
I don't know that it's useful.
Right.
You know?
That's the way I look at it. To me, it was just, is it legal? Yes. Should it be legal? Yes. But it's counterproductive.
Right.
You just instigating a situation just for the sake of instigating
Right.
it with no real benefit other than to make Second Amendment people look like nutbags.
Right. Then the pro-gun control side says, look at these lunatics.
So you run the risk of having people in that store that really didn't have an opinion one way or the other about the Second Amendment.
Yes.
Okay, so now here's these guys coming in with guns. They don't know why they have the guns. Like I said, they didn't have opinion one way or the other, and they don't really, they're not plugged in. Okay, so they see these guys coming in with these AR-15 rifles, semi-automatic rifles, bandoliered to their back, and they're trying to process in their mind. And think about the only medium they have to draw from, TV.
Right.
So, and TV, Hollywood loves to portray the firearms in a very negative light. Right now, like my pistol, I could take it out. It's fully loaded. I could lay it on the table. And if nobody applies any energy to that, nothing's ever going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to shoot anybody.
Right, just a second.
We have a call.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hello, statue.
Whoa!
What's up?
Not much. How's it going, guys?
All right. What's up?
Not much. So, I got a question. All right, so I'm listening to you guys talking about the whole AR-15, Second Amendment, carrying guns into open places in states that have very clear open carry laws.
Yeah.
What kind of situation are you saying would be instigated by someone carrying in a state that is very open carry, gung-ho? Texas being one of the most gun-happy places in the entire United States. What exactly do you mean a situation that's going to be, they're instigating a situation by walking into a store with a gun? I think if anything, the only thing that walking and open carrying does is deters criminals that are not open carrying and have illegal firearms that are hidden on themselves, probably going to make themselves think twice before they decided they were going to go rob a Chipotle's or bring guns and do whatever in open public places where there's a 1 in 10 chance that somebody might pull out a gun and shoot you.
I think it's a matter of perception in this case. It's just how
Yeah, and I
people
think that's what I
perceive it.
pointed out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think you're absolutely right. New Hampshire is one example of a state that has greatly benefited from people open carrying. And the reason I say that is because if you go back 10 years, if we had an incident where a guy was in Barnes & Noble bookstore, he was squatting down to a lower shelf to look at a book. And he was concealed carrying, but his jacket lifted up, and a woman saw the firearm. She called the police, and there was a rapid police response, okay? Because the fact is he was lawfully licensed to carry that firearm concealed, and the mere fact that she saw it, didn't really rise to that kind of a response. Now, with the Free State movement coming into the state, you have a whole bunch of people open carrying firearms, and when they're confronted by the police, they say, "We're breaking no laws. I challenge you to show me a law
You
that
ever
we're
been to
breaking."
Texas?
Oh, I absolutely have. Sure. Yep.
Yeah, Texans are allowed to just carry guns everywhere. People walk around with guns in their trucks, on racks, in their glove compartments. People still carry 6-shooters on leather waistbands like they're cowboys down
Sure,
there.
but
So,
they're not
any
allowed to
state,
carry in restaurants or
that we're
bars.
talking about open carrying. Texas, everybody open carries. Everybody's got 13 guns in Texas.
They
Exactly 13 or approximately 13?
That's like that country song.
That's an exact peer-reviewed journal study that is 100% accurate,
Wow.
factual. 13 each. That's a minimum mandatory to get into the state. The only ones that have 10 or 11 are the Mexicans.
That's what that song's about. That 13 Guns in Texas, that old country song.
Oh,
That's great classic.
Yep.
Yeah.
All my exes and AR-15 assault rifles are in Texas.
all right. Hey, thanks for the call.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
No, but I mean, is going back to the open carry bit, you had some Free Staters going around doing community service projects, open carrying.
Yeah.
And, I think we've been inoculated from that sort of, people panicking. I mean, nowadays it's really not much ado about nothing if people are open carrying. Again, there's statutory places where you cannot carry a firearm, such as a courtroom or any area controlled by the court, as the statute states. But
Or
going
school.
right, well, that's if you ask 25 lawyers that question, you get 25 different answers.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's based on an ambiguity in the federal law. Some lawyers will tell you no, you can't carry because our pistol revolver license are not issued exclusively by law enforcement. But another lawyer might tell you, well, if that particular pistol revolver license was issued by the licensing authority being law enforcement, then it would be okay. So, I mean, there's been no test case, you know, and, you know, I'm not one to say, oh, I'm not going to be the test case. So I don't cheat it like that, you know. But I know folks that do, and maybe one of them will be the test case. But there's nothing that explicitly states, you know, as far as...
So what's the safety zone thing that the federal government passed?
Safety zones?
I thought there was school safety zones where
1,000 feet, right?
1,000 feet,
right. That's now there within that in that law.
Yep.
Okay, there are exceptions. For example, if you own property that's adjacent to private property adjacent to that zone where firearms are used, you're exempt from that. And we went through this in Peterborough back when the selectmen were poking the Peterborough selectmen were poking Monadnock Rod and Gun Club. You know, one of the residents brought up. They said, "Oh, there's a community daycare right across the street. You know, that's within 1,000 feet of a school. But the problem is, right across the street where the Monadnock Rod and Gun Club is, that's all private property.
Right.
So, and that specific exception is well within that law.
Okay.
So, that's one of those, you know, like you take like a town like Sharon, New Hampshire, they don't have their own police force.
Right.
So how does a resident of Sharon get a pistol revolver license? Well, the statute says the selectman or the mayor
Right.
or law enforcement may issue. Okay.
Correct.
However, or shall issue. You know, a town like Sharon, a selectman, probably if they're a reasonable selectman, they're going to take that and go to the sheriff's department and say, person wants a pistol revolver license, can you process this? That's the way I understand it. So I think 99% of the pistol revolver license are in fact being issued by law enforcement in the state of New Hampshire.
Okay.
So there's that. You
Yeah.
know.
But back to the open carry.
Open carry with rifles, yeah.
Into stores. It was like the right after the shooting in Newtown.
Sure.
I think it was within a month.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody went into, I think it was near the seacoast, went into a Walmart open carrying an AR-15.
Yeah.
And yes, constitutionally he has a right to do so, but it was just so stupid. Because people.
He was attracting attention to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to attract attention to yourself if you know go anywhere. If you're not on a range, you're definitely somebody's going to notice. Let's put it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done it when I first moved up here. I didn't have a pistol permit for a while. And
It's a license.
license. I'm sorry. So I always carried it open,
Sure.
and nobody cared. I'd go shooting, and I'd stop at the convenience store to get soda and stuff like that. It's like, so what, you know?
Although if the convenience store was near where you went shooting, they were probably used to seeing that anyway. So that may be a little different.
Yeah, it could be, but in where it's a little bit different anyway.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I just think that some people are just provoking things for, and it doesn't do the Second Amendment people any good.
No, no, it doesn't. You know, it's the context.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's a rally going on, Second Amendment rally, I think people half expect to see stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, but if some guy just goes into Chipotle and he's sitting there reading news, and remember, let's take a neutral person who doesn't have a strong opinion one way or the other about firearms or the Second Amendment. In fact, maybe it didn't exist in his world. Okay, the question then becomes, by going into Chipotle, are we creating for him the particular connotation
Right.
that we don't want to create?
Right.
Exactly.
Like our mission, okay, Londonderry Fishing Game Club, we offer classes for free for people that know absolutely nothing about firearms. They can come into one of our classes. They can learn about firearms. We teach them how to hold a firearm to shoot. We teach them how to aim. We teach them how to operate the firearm. And then we actually go right out to the range, and we don't focus on, sight alignment, sight picture, make sure you get the bullseye on. No, just shooting the firearm on the range in a safe and controlled environment with range safety officers present so that they can get some degree of comfort and familiarity so that they can then rethink their opinions about firearms.
Right.
And form whatever opinion they choose to.
Last week I was up at the in Squam Lake.
Sure.
The fishing game. I forget what it's called.
Oh,
New Hampshire Fishing Game.
Howellbrook Hunter Education
yeah,
Center.
Howellbrook
Sure.
Education Center.
I'm going to be up there this Saturday for the Hunter Education Banquet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, busy week. Friday night, by the way, is the Friends of the NRA banquet at the Executive Court.
Oh, really?
6 o'clock sharp. Tickets are $40. If you want tickets, I have those.
Wow.
So
I do want one.
we've got some we've got our wall of guns. We've got some bucket raffles. We've got some great stuff. You can win some serious prizes. And,
you got to bring serious cash too, because there's a lot of buckets and a lot of
it's
stuff.
a fundraiser.
It is.
You know.
It is.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. We have a question via text. Our friend Jim is asking, hi, Matt. People whom have permits to carry weapons can't have their pistol at the Mall of New Hampshire.
Well, that's not really true. The Mall of New Hampshire has a little posting. Simon Corporation has a posting. It says no firearms allowed.
Yeah, I know the mall in Concord has that too.
What that basically means is...
He's asking, is that justified because it's a private business?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. There's two ways to answer it. There's one school of thought that says, you know what? That particular prohibition has no force of law because they can't discriminate against people based on color, ethnicity, religion, or origin. They're constitutionally barred from discriminating or saying, no blacks, no Jews, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Okay? Second Amendment is part of the Constitution. So some will argue that, despite their fact, they make the private property argument, but that's out the window with the constitutional protections. They make the argument that it doesn't have any force of law. They have the sign up. They can ask you to leave. They can tell you to leave. Maybe they can call the police, and the police will make you leave.
Right.
But as far as being legally exposed because of that sign, it has no effect, no force of law whatsoever.
Yeah,
None. Not in this state, anyway.
I was talking to this last with a guy running for state senate, Jerry Little, at a Ware Republican meeting, and I that's what I said. I repeated what in effect what you just said, and then I said, but there's the other side of this. Let's take them all again.
Right.
Guy goes into the mall and starts speaking about the Advent, gets pretty loud and starts talking about Muhammad and how you need to become a Muslim.
Right.
You could claim that because, even though it's private property, but the difference is private property is, in this case, you've opened up your private property to the public to do business.
Correct.
That's where it gets fuzzy.
Correct.
And so he starts preaching about Muhammad at the Mall in New Hampshire. You could say, well, it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Does he have the right to be there?
There's no solicitation on mall property whatsoever. You must have management permission to hand out literature, to solicit, and...
yeah, but is that a rule or is it a law? I mean, is it the same?
Well, it's their policy, and they can kick you off the property if you're doing that.
Okay.
But it may have no force of law if it's not.
Correct. Well, if you were asked to leave and you don't leave, it may, I'm not saying it is, but it may be construed as trespassing. And if you refuse to leave when the police get there, maybe arrested. Who knows?
Okay.
That would be disturbing the peace, not for any violation of...
No, it'd be trespassing because you were asked to leave and you remained.
But couldn't you apply that same argument then to someone carrying a gun?
Sure, that's what's done.
Okay.
Hospitals are famous for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, it's like when the Democrats took over the House. First thing they did is pass a rule that you can't have firearms in the
chamber.
House chamber.
House chamber, yeah.
And it's a rule.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Right.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I mean, the thing that people need to remember first and foremost is that any place where you can't have a firearm in New Hampshire It's outlined in statute.
Right.
There's only one place I know of, and that's courthouses and areas controlled by the court.
What about post office? I thought post office.
Post office is well. Here's an
federal.
interesting thing. Yeah, that's federal. That's governed by federal. Okay. Here's an interesting thing. You have the Code of Federal Regulation. It says no firearms whatsoever. You know. You have the United States Code, which says no firearms except for. So how do how do you decide? You got two different things going on here. And I used to know this. I've forgotten it, but there was a specific exemption in there, and it was very convoluted and very weird. You know, where if you're concealed carrying and your state, the issuing authority of your state allows its citizens pistol and revolver license, but I'm not even going to go into that because I can't remember it and I don't want to get it wrong.
Right.
But to my knowledge, the federal facilities have their own rules and laws and statutes, and it has no bearing. For example, here's a great example. The guy that was walking around with the rifle strapped to his back at the airport passing out literature. Do you think they spoke to him about the rifle? No. They spoke to him about passing out literature. He's not allowed to do it.
Solicitation. Yeah.
Right. So why was he able to do that? Why did he get away with walking around with a rifle strapped to his back? Well, because he was in an area that was controlled by state, not in the federal TSA area.
Okay.
Oh, no kidding.
Where passengers go to and fro, sojourn here and there. He was not in the federal area. Now, if he had gone in the area controlled by the federal government, he would be under the jurisdiction of their rules.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
See?
That's
So
it's so nuanced that
Yeah. Well, no, there's
gotta-
federal and there's state.
I know, but you
know?
gotta really know what the law is so that you don't get arrested when you're trying to provoke.
Well, just don't have a firearm that you forgot in one of your carry-on bags, and you'll be good to go. That's people do that.
That happens to rock stars.
That happened
they
to
have-
rappers.
that happened to. That was a while ago. That was Crow Dickinson.
Yeah, Crow
It
Dickinson,
happened to
state
Crow.
rep. Yeah,
Oh,
it
really?
happened to
Yeah,
him.
But the cool thing about Crow is he's the one who wrote New Hampshire Second Amendment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did he led the charge on the constitutional wrappings that the way it is now.
Yeah, because it was in the 80s, and it was not really ingrained into our state constitution, and he saw the writing on the wall and made sure it was in there.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
No kidding.
So if you look at your state constitution, the right to bear arms is new.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
It's like 1981.
Is he still around, Crow Dickinson?
I don't know.
I've lost track of him. I think he might be in Florida, or if he hasn't passed on. But
Yeah, he's not really nice guy.
he's a super nice guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Depends on who you ask. You know.
Yeah.
The other side says he's nutty, but we all love him.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know.
now the other one was in the news today was the little Chucky Schumer,
Oh, Chuck Schumer.
little
yeah.
Chuck, or Chucky.
Yeah, he has a New York City carry permit. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures
Yeah.
of him shooting
Guns for me, but not for thee.
Right.
Right. Yeah, the thing is the peasants don't really need guns.
Right.
You know, when you're that important.
Peasants in the cheap seats don't need the guns.
No, they don't. What does he want to do? He wants to pass a law. He's trying to. At least I got to give him this. At least he's talking about a constitutional amendment. Usually, he's all in favor of subverting the Constitution.
Right.
To regulate political free speech.
Sure.
Because he says some of it is not inappropriate and like the Tea Party people who really don't have any constitutional right to speak all their hate speech we speak all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. The little Chucky's up to now trying to go after the First Amendment.
That won't go anywhere. That's all for show.
Right.
Yeah, probably, but
Yeah. It's the had you been following the Anytown for gun safety saga?
the what?
No.
Anytown USA for gun safety.
No.
Well, you remember several weeks back, Michael Bloomberg unveiled this effort. He's going to spend $50 million to have an anti-gun push. You know,
Right,
and
right.
he
I hope he
Teamed
spends
up
every
with-
last nickel that jerk has.
he teamed up with Shannon Watts, so they came up with this Every Town for Gun Safety. Well, they left this big gaping hole in social media by not scoffing up all the Facebook pages.
Yeah.
So it went like overnight, like a wave across the U.S. And Anytown USA for Gun Safety New Hampshire was a page I started. And then, all the other pages. Pretty soon I had 45 states checking in Anytown for Gun Safety, Missouri.
Wow.
And we turned it into real, genuine gun safety,
Yeah.
4 basic rules of gun safety,
Oh, that's awesome.
And,
Wow.
and so we basically
You're
hijacked.
kind of a radical,
Well, it's been said, but I don't know. I'm a little old for that.
Right.
I take a shower, so I can't call me a dirty hippie. That's another thing I get scarified for. But anyways, all across the United States, all these people are grassroots level,
Yeah.
scoffing up these pages, So anyways, a couple weeks ago, I go to log into Facebook, can't get on.
No.
I'm blocked out. They removed my page and suspended me for 3 days.
Did they tell you why?
No.
They don't have to. It's a private company.
I bet they'll. If you ever get an
That's
answer.
not true either.
What?
Think about this. They have social media. They're holding it out for public use.
Right.
So, it is private property, but that's not absolute.
If you get an answer out of them, I bet they'll accuse you of.
I could get, I could
they'll
get an
accuse you
answer
of
out of
cyber
them.
squatting.
That's what they did,
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Say, if you want to press the issue, it requires a federal lawsuit.
Right.
Who wants to get wrapped up in that?
Right. Of course.
Here I am. They should have, when they did those songs, those Fraggle Rock songs back in they should have done one called "Here I Am Stuck in Rule 11."
Right.
Federal procedure.
That's actually a really interesting point. I have always just presumed Facebook can block and do whatever they want.
They're very arbitrary too.
Right.
They are. Oh
yeah,
they
wicked bad.
Absolutely.
Extremely
are.
arbitrary.
But then if
Yeah.
but then if you go back to that same example of do I have a right to carry in a public place if a company has opened up their facility to the public and invites the public in, don't I have the certain rights? And you would think if it's a social media that is there specifically to allow people to have comments back and forth, political free speech should be almost absolute there.
You would think so, but not on Facebook. I'll give you a great example. We use Facebook social media. We do the boost on our post, Friends of the NRA Banquet, because we want to reach out.
How does that work? You got to explain that to me off camera because I don't know how that works. But go ahead.
You have your particular page, you boost it, you monetize it, and it gives you a greater reach.
You have to pay for that.
Yes.
For the service,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the thing, Friends of the NRA. Every now you have to boost it 3 times because usually the first 2 times not boosted, but they don't really give you any reason why. Okay.
Do they still take your money when that happens?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They just don't boost it.
Okay.
Or sometimes posts just go missing.
Right. Right.
No. It's
You
magic.
post something up,
Yeah.
like, some hand-wringing liberal at an anti-gun rally, you post something up, you make a meme,
Yeah.
you say something derogatory in the meme, you post it, it's like, wow, that's cool. Like they pulled down my "What Would Jesus Do" meme. They pulled that right down.
Why? What was that one?
Well, what happened was Michael Bloomberg, it's a 4-part meme. There's a picture of Michael Bloomberg
Right.
with his hands like this. He says, "What would Jesus do?" And then there's a picture of me like this. And I'm going, well, Jesus would flip tables and chase people out with whips. And then it shows Michael Bloomberg like this, and then it says, that's what Jesus would do. That got taken down.
It got taken down.
Yeah. So,
Why? Somebody
don't know.
they
They
don't
don't give
tell
you a
you.
reason. It just disappears.
Facebook.
Because I made one.
Like Travis Walton, it just disappears.
Actually, I made one last January. It's actually kind of cool because I saw this come around 2 or 3 days ago. I made one in January of 2013. It was a woman, and I've forgotten where she was from. She was like a kind of like a security, not a security guard, but kind of like that at a school.
Oh.
And she basically blocked this guy who was trying to come in and do harm.
I remember
and
this.
talked to her and talked to him and talked to him. And finally, the cops came around him and got him. But she, unarmed, basically kept that guy from coming and shooting kids.
Yep.
Okay, so I made a poster. I says, "This woman's a hero," and I got her name and where it happened and all that. And I made a poster. That's got almost 50,000 shares, and
Wow.
I just saw it
Yeah.
just and those are the ones I know about.
Yeah, yeah.
What people need to know, though, is it may not always work out that way.
No,
Right, right.
You know?
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. They can block anything they want, and if
Right.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
and probably somebody
And
like
it's
you,
very arbitrary and capricious. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
It's
my brother used to have one of those.
A capricious?
A Capri.
capricious. Yeah.
Oh, capricious.
Capri.
Oh.
Yes. Jolly good car. I keep it in the boot, you know. The license, it's on the boot.
No, it's a Capri. Capri wasn't that. It wasn't. I think it was made by Ford.
It was a Ford, yeah.
Yeah.
Ford. It was a UK thing.
It was.
Some of those splashed over. The Ford Scorpio.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't
Remember
think-
the Scorpio?
No.
I don't
Oh
remember
yeah, that would
that.
stay. Mercury Mercure. That came over from England.
Really?
Yeah, those were huge bust-out models over there, and then all
Really?
of a sudden here they are in the United States.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, in like 1987, 88, right around there.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, you know, the whole concealed carry notion there. I remember the caller saying, you know, nobody goes into Chipotle because they see people with guns. Well, you know, I mean, there's also another argument. There's another argument that some make. Well, you know, when you open carry, you're advertising the fact that you have a firearm. So if somebody's going to do harm, you're the first mark going down.
That's true too.
You know, I suppose I don't know if it is true or it isn't true.
No, but
you
it
know.
makes sense.
There's a logic there. Yeah.
You know, this, you know, who knows? You know, who knows how the criminal mind works?
Right.
You know, that firearm
doesn't.
presence may deter a criminal because, I mean, it's true. If that were the case, why don't police officers get taken down more? You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Because, I mean, they open carry.
True.
You know, I mean, you
Right.
pretty much see a uniform. You pretty much understand there's a firearm there.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a certain flaw in the logic there. On the other hand, concealed carry, you know, the criminal's assuming that, hey, look, nobody's armed, you know. But I think the macro point, like to the Simon malls and to the businesses that put the signs up that say no guns, here's the question that I always want to know the answer to. What do they think about criminals? Do you think that sign stops a criminal? Somebody coming in their business with criminal intent with a firearm, is it going to stop them? I think we know the answer is to that, you know.
Right.
As opposed to the person who's lawfully taken the time to get some training. They've sent their $10 to the police department and subjected
They've had a
themselves
background
to
check.
some form of background check for the police department and say, okay, you can carry a firearm. Okay. Now that's the person that's going into your business. They've already been looked at by the police.
Right, right.
So why, with great logic, would you keep people like that from your business?
Right.
Okay, they're by and large they're responsible people.
Right.
They're not going to, you know.
Well, my basic feeling on this is, and I've said this before, but I believe if 50% of the women were armed,
Well,
or even 10%,
we're coming close.
I know we're getting there.
We're getting there.
If we had 10%, let's say 10% of the women were armed, and in the news media, instead of woman gets beaten and whatever, you heard man gets shot 5 times and will unlikely ever have children.
There's always a strange twist, isn't there?
That's all right. Can't help it.
Yeah.
It's like watching Scooby-Doo around here.
It's like, well, I try to. There might be kids watching, so I try to tone it down. So, if that was in the news periodically, you don't need all women to carry, and it's the same thing with Chipotle's or any place else.
Right.
You don't need everybody to carry. All you need is a high enough percentage of the people that do carry, and I include this teachers in schools. If you don't have to have teachers in schools armed,
Right.
but if they were allowed to be armed, and anybody going in there knew that there was a 10% chance that the person they were coming up against might shoot back, the probability of that person wanting to pursue that goes down dramatically.
We're working with several teachers right now, going through various training programs
Yeah.
so that they can be armed in the classroom. These are not public schools,
Okay.
private schools.
Yeah.
And we're working with those teachers actively, putting them through our training programs. And at some point, when they've had all the training we can offer, we'll move them into training called Simunitions. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Critical Defense Institute right here in Manchester, run by Tom Brown. he runs simunitions exercises.
Okay.
It really creates those true-to-life scenarios, so you can see how you would react in
In an
a
actual
situation with
stressful
a
situation
with a
instead
gun.
of sitting
Yep.
at a target and shooting at paper.
yeah.
Yeah, that is
It's,
actually really cool.
It's really incredible training. It's very expensive training, unfortunately, but it is it is something that should be done.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're out of
We're
time,
out of
but
time.
let's see. Repeat what we're doing tomorrow, and
We have a couple of events. First, we have the Thank a Veteran Cookout at the Londonderry Fish and Game Club, 5 Lund Street. There's no cost. It's open to the public. And it starts at 11 and ends at 2. So come on down if you want to. Also, Friday night, we have the Friends of the NRA Banquet. And what that is that is a fundraiser for...
you buy tickets at the door or no?
You can buy tickets at the door.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And
Where is that?
that's 1199 South Mammoth Road, Executive Court Banquet Facility.
Okay.
And the purpose of the NRA funds is half of those funds stay right here in the local area and go out to clubs. When we get grants, we put them back into our different programs. Like we just hosted the Cub Scouts,
Yep.
ages 7 to 10, out at our club
Yeah.
for small rifle. So they get rifle badges.
Yeah.
And that was a real fun event. They loved it. We've had the Girl Scouts out at our club for both rifle and archery.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of civic-minded programs, and we like to get those monies in the form of grants because we don't like to charge them money.
Yeah.
You know, we try to have it be a no-cost event for them.
So, will you support my visual to help the visually impaired huntings to allow them to have 30-round clips? If I introduce that next year,
Say what?
You might have to talk to him more about that.
I think so. Yeah, the visually impaired. I mean, because everything's about being fair. Everything is about being fair.
Right,
And the
right.
visually impaired are at a great disadvantage when hunting whitetail.
We live in a world where everybody gets a trophy.
That's right.
So,
All right, we gotta go.
so anyway, they should be able to have 30-round magazines
For hunting,
for hunting.
no.
Jeez, I thought he was open-minded.
Well, maybe next
Hey, we'll
time.
see you next
Bye,
week.
everybody.